Hello and welcome to another episode of Game Reviews by James. Today I'm going to be looking at Super Mario Land for the original Game Boy. Now before I start playing this game, here's a little bit of history about it. Super Mario Land was developed as one of the first batches of titles for the Nintendo Game Boy. It debuted in Japan on the same day the Game Boy did in April of 1989. In the rest of the world, it came out a few months after the system did. Gunpei Yokoi, who produced the original Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., and the arcade hit Mario Bros., was put in charge of the game. This game helped drive the sale of the Game Boy at first, and throughout its lifespan it would sell over 18 million copies, which is the fourth most all-time on the system. This game is available on the original Game Boy, and a re-released version was made available on the Nintendo 3DS eShop a couple of years ago. As far as I know, the two versions of the game are technically identical. To my surprise, after referencing the instruction manual, this game does in fact have a story to it. To summarize it, Mario is no longer in the Mushroom Kingdom, but in a new world called Sarasaland, or Sarah Salad Land as I like to call it. In the land, there are 4 individual kingdoms known as Birabuto, Muda, Easton, like the sports brand, and Chai. One day, a black cloud covered the 4 kingdoms of the land, and a space alien named Tatanga came down to Sarasaland and hypnotized its peoples and kidnapped the Princess Daisy to marry her and make her his queen. Mario, up to the challenge of saving yet another damsel in distress, decides to go for it. In this game, you travel through the 4 kingdom worlds. Each world has 3 areas in it, making for a grand total of 12 stages in the game. That's right, you heard correctly, 12 of them. Meaning that if you are of the skillful type, you could probably beat this game in one bathroom sitting. Mario's back to his Super Mario Bros. Look and attributes in this game. You can still get the likes of the Super Mushroom, Starman, and Fire Flower, but other power-ups are not in this game in any form. That being said, Mario has a new type of stage in this game. Auto-scrolling vehicle stages. One which you are in a submarine, and the other where you are in an airplane. First few stages of the game don't really offer much of a challenge, even for beginners. Even when I was a novice, I had no problem getting through these stages. The first boss is King Totemizu. When you get past him, you'll find that you already rescued the princess. Wait, what the hell? She turned into an enemy. Wonder what Mario's reaction was when he thought he rescued the princess, but she turned into a creature.
Oh, Daisy!
As you make your way through the stages, you'll notice that they get progressively harder. At stage 2-3, you get your first auto-scrolling vehicle level. At the end of the stage, you fight Dragon Zamasu, who looks a bit like a Mewtwo precursor to me. The second boss battle, while not much of a challenge, was always fun just because of that noise he makes when you shoot him with the missiles. After Daisy melts into another enemy, it's on to World 3. World 3 is where the game jumps in difficulty. The lack of power-ups and a slew of bottomless pits make it hard to get through at first, but the key to beating it is just taking your time with it. The third boss is called Hyoi Hyoi, and he doesn't put up much of a challenge. After you get off Easter Island, it's on to the final kingdom. These are the hardest stages in the game, especially the likes of World 4-2, which is probably the hardest in the game. The final level you take to the skies to try and take down the evil alien King Tatanga. After you've pumped his guts full of lead, his fortress explodes and you finally rescue the princess. Who is so grateful she gives you a kiss and the game ends.
Oh, Daisy! Daisy!
So essentially Mario has 3 different girlfriends after this. Paulina from Donkey Kong, Princess Toadstool, and now her sister Daisy. Mario had 3 women at the same time, and there's nothing wrong with that. When I first played this game, one of the things I couldn't get used to for a while was the sprite size. They just seemed way too small, especially if you were playing them on a portable system. You'd think that since the sprites are smaller on the screen, you could probably take the stages a little faster. Well, that isn't the case either. You see, the controls are probably as slippery as Mario has ever felt. Even with good reaction, you'd be hard-pressed just to speed through each stage. After about 2 or 3 days, I mastered this game to the point where I could beat it without even losing one life. Speaking of lives, you'll have plenty of chances to score some along the way by either collecting 100 coins or finding bonus areas at the end of stages. So this game is pretty darn easy to beat, even if you're not very good at it. If you look back at the original lineup of Game Boy games, it's pretty apparent that the games were going to be pretty simplistic. In terms of plot and gameplay, this game is as simple as Super Mario Bros. But is it as fun? Well, it depends who you ask. For me, it isn't as good. It's not expansive enough, the controls are a little stiff, and it doesn't really look that much like a Mario game. Is it good for an early Game Boy title? I think yes it is. Though in years to come it would be outdone several times. Do I recommend this game? Nah, not unless you really find it for a cheap price like I did. It's not necessary, and in today's day and age, it doesn't hold up, so it really isn't worth going back to. This game might not hold up now, but back in the early 90s, it sure did, to the point where Nintendo felt like they needed to make a sequel to it. Well, that's it. Super Mario Land, while not a very long or challenging video game, is groundbreaking in the fact that it was one of the launch titles for the original Game Boy. I do suppose Nintendo could have always done better, and in the next episode, I'm going to take a look at Super Mario Land 2 to see if they did.